Hello, I'm Penny Hoffman, the design director at Nothing. I'm going to explain how we designed the Phone 4a Pro. We're really pleased with this, and it feels like quite a honest, almost led by engineering product really. We've got this metal aluminium body which gives us a chance to make something thinner. It feels great. We have this window here which is for the NFC coil, and obviously we have the cameras, we have the Glyph matrix in here. Everything feels very intentional, and that's really what we're always striving for. Some things can look quite decorative, sometimes they are, but at the heart of it, it's kind of fundamentally really based on giving us something new. We look at this and we think this totally feels right, totally feels us, but maybe on first viewing it might be a bit of a shock for some people who still basically want us to be making Phone 1.
The brief that we were given this time around was to create even more difference between the base and the Pro. So as well as CMF, as well as a different camera arrangement, we were also interested to think about what we could do through the Glyphs to create more difference. With our kind of design philosophy, we didn't want that difference to just come from changing the shapes of these cover panels behind the glass. It had to be something more meaningful and sort of more integral to the fundamentals of the way the phone was built.
If you plot them, you've got A, you've got 3. We did this a lot, didn't we? We kind of thought, well, is it close to here? Is it close to here? Does it sit somewhere in the middle? I know how some companies work. They try to down-spec things in order to not compete with the flagship, but we do not believe in that at all. We really design every product to compete with the next product up if we can, and that's really what we've tried to do here. Not downgrade, not be afraid of having a matrix on here and a matrix on Phone 3. We just want to make this as good as we can for the price we're selling it at. If it makes people ask questions here, then that's a good thing. That means we need to up our game here next time. If you look at the other products that were happening at that time, we had the headphones, which came out about 6 months later after we started this product. And also we had Ear 3, which came out maybe 9 months later. And these have a different use of aluminium, which is kind of new to us.
There was just this, obviously, this incorrect assumption that if we made a phone, it had to be transparent on the back all the way from top to bottom. We've never done that on any of the other products. The transparency on the earbuds is always contained on the stem.
A lot of people in the studio, they're always trying to rethink transparent design language. The tinted window treatment was unexpected. I mean, it was insane to see the difference. Like initially I thought, I don't know if I would ever want a tinted window on this, but once you started making mock-ups, it was kind of amazing to see how it changed, how light hits inside the window, and the fractions and the depth.
It's really easy to think that you can sort of crack the formula of, okay, well, this is pink, so therefore the deco should be pink, or, you know, maybe the deco should have more contrast, but it's really not as straightforward as that. We found that when we had these pink decos, it just looked wrong, really. It doesn't look like a Nothing product anymore. It looks like you have kind of put a color overlay on Photoshop, and it's just super uniform. And I think what's a lot of the time interesting about what we do is it's never as simple as it appears to be.
The use of metal, slightly new thing for us, maybe on the A series phones, with the transparency that we add in with metal, it kind of makes the metal sing even more. We kind of found that actually when you just go like all metal, it just really loses something. The metal almost sort of drops in value, which is slightly counterintuitive, but that's why what we've done sort of plays into our design language and philosophy so nicely.
If you look at Headphone 1, that feels really nothing, but proportionally, it's hardly transparent at all. If you look at the overall volume of the product and how much of it actually is transparent, it's probably the least transparent thing we've ever done, but it feels profoundly our own identity.
Yeah, people know they like transparency, which is good. Maybe they don't know what else they like yet, so we can expose them to it.
Yeah, I mean, and for us thinking ahead, if we did a speaker, would it be a fully transparent speaker?
Because that already exists.
There's many. If we did a watch, would it be a transparent watch? Who knows?
If we did a French horn.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you see all the spit?
Very important consideration.
The transparency element, it's protruding from the unibody, which is kind of nice. So when you look at the side, you can see some of the transparent elements and the decals underneath. Ultimately, one reason why we liked this unibody is it's a lot more, it feels very durable and it's hard wearing. You can imagine the more someone uses this, you'd see some of the anodized metal wear and some cuts from dropping it and things like this. So we like this aspect.
Also, just when you pick it up, it's so nice and cold. You get that with metal and glass. And so you're getting the same feeling that you would get when you pick up any of our other phones that have got a glass back. But there's something about the kind of heft and the texture. It has this sort of slightly sandy, silky feeling. Everybody's phone is in their hand so much. You've really got to pay attention to how that feels. And for me, that's really an interesting break away from a glass-backed phone.
With the window kind of gesture, all of that detail is pushed up and concentrated in this much smaller area. That kind of meant that the placement of those cameras was so much more important. And Kevin spent so much time fighting with the engineers to finally lock the position of those cameras. And there was a point where I was a bit worried.
And we knew that we really loved the visor, and this was the identity to the A series.
Yeah, this is the visor.
At one point, it became obvious that we wanted to bring the dot matrix into the A series. We started to have a lot of really blocky, large, pixelated graphic Glyph gestures. That's when some of the decisions were made towards making the dot matrix a bit bigger, more playful, larger pixels.
We have this matrix which you can do icons and faces on, so that means you can do the essential notification and have different icons for different people. You can do the selfie mirror, which is a really fun way to show someone the glyphs for the first time. It's fun if you zoom in really close on someone's face. For this device, we're looking at what we created for the flagship Glyph experience on Phone 3 and how much of that could we bring to the A series.
How many of the functionalities can you name to yourself?
Probably all of them.
That's it.
Classic ringtone animations, notification animations, generative ringtones, generative notifications, flip to Glyph, hourglass, flip to record, moon phase, solar path, clock, Glyph Progress 2.0, powered by Android 16 Live updates.
And what's good is it's so simple that there's lots of flip phones and a few smartphones that have got screens on the back, and you can do loads of stuff with that. So it's basically a screen. Because we've kept this very simple, you're not tempted to do too many things. So something like this is like really handy, because so many people use, I mean, if they wear a watch like I do, there's not even the time on it.
Yeah, it has more intentional smartphone usage. Having the matrix like we have on Phone 3 with caller ID, you can still do that on Phone 4a Pro. So if someone's calling you, this is what it would look like if you were calling me. You can just shake the phone and it will show you the name of who's calling. So we've been able to do some of the functionality that we did with the button, even though we don't have it on this device. We've been able to find other ways to bring this functionality to 4a Pro.
It's interesting when we were thinking about applying color to our Pro series, it occupies a different space in the market generally, and it is a bit more conservative. Like historically, we've always had a more conservative aesthetic there. We had this really pretty lively pink that we developed for A series as a whole, and how that sort of manifested itself onto 4A was it lives inside the tint. With this build, we were working with a completely different architecture, so we weren't able to apply the color in the same way, especially when we were looking at the pink in the basic variant. It kind of behaves really differently because you have this increased transparency and you're seeing more of what's underneath. When we shifted the architecture to being, you know, more as hidden, and then you've got this like central window. When it was pink, it just somehow felt too conventional for us and too uniform and just not right. And then as soon as we brought in that, I guess, uniformity between these two, where we have this grey deco instead and a white, and then you have the tint over it, it just suddenly felt much less conventional, much less girly, just cooler. That's always something that's very difficult to, how do you specify coolness? But you kind of know when it's there. The CMF kind of is one of the things that unifies Basic and Pro in this instance, in a way that if we had made this range a different set of colors, it might have looked even further away from itself. So it kind of carries on the conversation between the two tiers quite nicely.
It's fun to work on phones here and think about Glyphs as well, is because we can come up with some ideas and then we have a team where they can make some pretty cool, robust prototypes, which sometimes just the way they put these pieces together, they're inspiration for perhaps like a new phone or another product.
So yeah, we were looking a lot at the larger circle as a form. And as soon as you have something with LEDs in it that can flash, that just kind of gives you a feeling of what the Glyphs could be like. And
if you know the Nothing product, you know that ringtone.
yeah,
Even just with one LED, which is pretty cool.
yeah, in the comments, please, what ringtone that was. Sometimes we'll just find off-the-shelf things that exist. So this is an LED matrix that's small but with bigger LEDs that we could start to put some patterns on, and then in the workshop create different covers that give kind of interesting effects to them.
This is the stuff that would make me want to be a designer watching this.
Yeah.
One of the challenges was getting the red recording light right.
If you put some LEDs behind like a diffuser of some kind, you get hot spots, and then you have to work with it in terms of the brightness, in terms of the materials, how transparent or tinted or milky that red square is. And so you have to play with all those things to try to get something that feels really uniform. And it looks awesome on this.
If you haven't done your due diligence, you can get bleed through from that light element because it's a separate part that you might not have, thought to make it opaque enough to mask what's happening. It's really complicated.
One of our overriding briefs for any product that we design is that the product is memorable quite quickly. We're always looking for that kind of particular ingredient. With this, we do have something that if you drew a line drawing of it, we've not done this before on a phone. So it's exciting to have found a new expression of that fundamental gesture.
The base model felt like it gave the fans what they wanted, kept them happy based on what we've done in the past. And then the Pro was hopefully going to appeal to a new audience who maybe had sort of less awareness of the brand or looking for something new. So it was a kind of a way to expand, broaden our appeal.
It's always really interesting because a lot of the time when we're looking at models, there'll be a moment where you assemble everything together and then you just sort of know that's what's right.
And then trying to make a judgment that, today you can stand by it. And that's the hard thing, is just having the perspective in the heat of the moment, under the pressure. Are we making the right call? Because if we don't feel right about it, we won't get over it. It will always be there.
If we're thinking about how to make a phone, we're not only looking at the phones that already have been launched because it's not very interesting.
We want to be surprising. We don't want to repeat ourselves too much. And if you like that, there's other options of people that just do the same thing every time. But that's actually not what we're about.
Stop being a little